Alright, this is a bait fish pattern that's designed for saltwater fishing. It's tied out of pretty much 100% synthetic materials, and it's super durable. We've got a Daiichi 2546 in 1/0 in the vise, and I'm going to be tying it with 6/0 uni thread. You could also use 3/0, but 6/0's plenty. I'm going to dress the hook and take it about to 2/3 down the hook shank. And I'm going to take some Flash and Slinky, which is a really cool kind of bucktail type substitute. And this is anchovy color. So I'm going to take just a hank about like this long, or that much of a hank. And I'm going to double it over, so basically the tie-in point is going to be right in the middle of this hank. And if I want the fly to be this long, you know, I can adjust for that, but it's not going to be quite that long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off approximately 1.5 inches, 2 inches from this hank, and that's going to give me a good length of this fly. Okay, so you see where I cut it off, all the butts are kind of lined up. A little trick to making it more fishy is I'm going to pull out some of those and make it uneven. Kind of like that. Then I'm going to grab it and preen it down, and so the other side now is going to be the same way, kind of uneven and buggy. I'm going to find the center point there, and I'm going to tie that in right on top of the hook shank. So I do that, if I take my wraps and wrap them back toward the hook point, I can just pull those front fibers over and now wrap back up. So now we've got part of the body of the fly tied in. I'm going to do the same thing with some purple Flash and Slinky, and that will go right on top of the anchovy color. And as you see, I'm not using a ton of material on this. A little bit goes a long way. Now I'm going to take some just plain purple Flashabou and take about 7 or 8 fibers or so, maybe a few more than that, and I'm going to tie that right on top of the purple. And fold that over. The fold over technique helps you not to waste materials, but it also helps the materials so that they don't pull out of the fly. I'm going to come in and just kind of give that a little bit of a trim. And now I have some black holographic Flashabou. Looks like that. Take some fibers, uneven the tips, and tie that in just like everything else. So that's essentially the body of the fly. Because it's a saltwater pattern, I like to reinforce it with a little bit of UV resin. I'm going to use the new Loon Flow. Just take a little bit of that and brush it on. The good thing about the Flow is it'll kind of seep down in. Then I'm just going to tag it with the light. Alright, next I'm going to take some just pearl Palmer chenille. Tie that in just right in front of that clump. It's okay if there's a little bit of a gap there because it's going to all get covered up anyway. Just about like that. Like a lot of our other bait fish patterns, we're going to finish this one off with some bruiser blend. And so I'm going to use purple for the top and cream for the bottom. And I don't use white for the bottom because I used an anchovy color for the base of this fly, and it's not quite white. So I'm just going to take some bruiser blend in purple and kind of preen it like this. Okay, and then I'm just going to tie that in right at the midpoint of the bruiser blend. just like that. Okay, so I've got the cream. Tie that in right on the bottom. And now I'm just going to pull that over and wrap over the top of the bruiser blend like that, and do the same thing for the bottom piece. And the idea is, yeah, I left a little bit of room up by the eye of the hook, and that's going to be good because I'm going to seat some eyes there. So whip finish it, brush out my head a little bit. And the bruiser blend's cool with epoxy because now you can really start to shape what kind of bait fish you want. If you want a really tall profile, just kind of push it together like this, stick your eyes on and epoxy it, and all those fibers are going to stay coming out the top. But on this fly, I'm going to seat the eyes, and then as I epoxy it, I'm going to pull the bruiser blend back, and it will cause it to have kind of a shorter profile. I'm going to just take some 8mm stick-on eyes and stick them on just like that right behind the eye of the hook, right on the nostril of the fly, nostril of the bait fish. Okay, at this point I'm going to take some more flow with the applicator tip, and this part's pretty important with a saltwater fly that might get beat up pretty bad, but the reason I use flow is I can stick this down in here and I can really inject the resin down into the head so I can create a solid head. If I were just to create the outside, then it would have a kind of a hollow core and it might crack. So I have that flow down in there, and I'm going to take the UV light and just cure it as I hold my fingers on, and that will kind of lock them into place. And I'm going to do the same thing for the bottom. The second step of this head is to take the thick version of the UV fly finish, and now I'm going to shape my head. And this is the part where I'm going to pull the bruiser blend back out of the way and shape it so that it stays kind of a narrower profile. And I will cover the eyes up. That way it encapsulates them in this epoxy head. Makes it really durable. Okay, so once I have it on there, I like to keep it rotating a bit. And then I'll take a bodkin and just kind of move it around so that it's nice and uniform. I'm going to take a little bit off actually. And if I rotate this, it should even out the epoxy on the head and make it nice and round. And to finish it off, I'm just going to take some more flow and just give it a really thin coat on the outside to take away any of that tack. The flow is one of the few resins that will dry tack free. Alright, to finish this fly up, I'm just going to take a little bit of a marker to it. Just come down the top of it with a black Sharpie to darken up the top. And then I use a purple Sharpie to kind of give it some stripage. And then to draw little gills on it, you want a fine point marker, whether it's a fine point Sharpie or one of these Copic markers. And just draw a little gill on it. That's the alpha predator. We've sent it down to Mexico before and it's caught fish. I've caught freshwater trout on it. But it's just a really good bait fish pattern that it'll move a lot more than you think it will once you get it wet. So give it a try, and subscribe to our channel.